Welcome to day 21 of our Inktober challenge. My name is Kelly Bluen. I am a certified Zentangle teacher, and I'm so happy that you are joining me today. So this is day 21 of a 31-day series. It's throughout the month of October, and each day we challenge ourselves to draw a new tangle. So today's tangle is called Butria, I believe, by Ute Anderson, CZT. And I'm going to be drawing it on this 2-inch tile and then adding it to this compilation piece that contains the first 20 tangles in the series. So much fun. I've got my Micron PN plastic nib pen, graphite pencil, and blending tool, my 2-inch tile, and then an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock paper. Let's set that aside and zoom in. I think you're going to love this tangle. It's one that can be used by itself as a monotangle. It can be put together in various ways to create a larger pattern, but also it can be done to look like a butterfly. So that's how we are going to use it today on this tile. Butria by Ute Anderson. Okay, let's begin with our pencil. And I'm actually going to turn my tile and have my shape be in this corner, okay? So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to put a little dot down here in the bottom. And I'm going to put a thin, really faint pencil line down each side. And then a little bit, not quite the halfway point, maybe down a little bit, I'm going to add a horizontal line. It can be the halfway point, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to put a little dot in the middle of that. And then I am switching to pen. Okay, we are not going to trace the outside lines, but we are going to trace this horizontal line. And I am going to put that little dot in the middle. Okay, from this dot, I'm going to bump up and come over to this point of the V shape. And you can do just a slight curve, or you can bump up and kind of swoop in. That's what I'm going to try to do. So I'm going to bump up and do a little swoop. But it could just be a curve. Now I'm going to do the same thing this way. And I can't really, because of the way I'm sitting, I'm going to try to swoop down and over instead of going up and over, because it's hard to draw away from yourself. So I'm just matching that curved line. Okay. And now I'm going to do another one, but I'm going to put a dot about halfway between these 2 points and halfway between these two. And that's where I want my next line to come up. And this can just be a curve, or it can be that same shape, it doesn't matter. Put in those little lines. And then we're going to go into this bottom section, and I'm going to do 2 little lines. My table here is shifting. Okay. I'm going to do a curve that goes from this middle to this point, that way and that way. Not very wide. And then I'm going to do a dot at the halfway point on each of these sides and go from that dot to the halfway, dot to the halfway. Right now it kind of looks like a spider, but it's going to be amazing, so just wait and see. Okay, now we're going to go back up here. We have this pencil line, and we're going to take our pen, we're going to kind of ignore the pencil line and instead put a little C curve from one section to the next. And this last one, I'm going to let it just kind of come in a little bit short right there. Same thing over here, a little C curve, and then come up a little bit short. That is Butria. That is it. It is so easy and so cool. And then I want to show you on, let me see if I have a piece of scrap paper. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm just going to grab another tile real quick because, oh, I already messed it up. Okay, hold on. You guys get to see my mistakes here. Okay, if I did a taller V in pencil and did that line, you would end up with a little bit different form of Butria. You can play with these little edges and go in and out. So it's the same thing, but a little bit different shape if you do it wide or you do it narrow. Okay, set that aside. I'm going to turn this so that I have an empty corner over here now, and we're going to do it again. And we're still going to turn these into butterflies, don't you worry. Okay, so I'm going to make another triangle, another V shape, and it's going to go to this corner and out towards that corner. And then I need that little horizontal line with the dot. So varying the shape of your V, varying where you put this line, how high up or down, can change the look of your tangle. So let's trace that line and the little circle. And I'm going to go from here all the way up to that point, and from here all the way up to the point. Halfway, halfway, two bottom curves, halfway dots, and we're still doing that curve shape, curve and curve. And up here, I'm just doing a backwards C curve, backwards C, backwards C, backwards C. And this is a regular C. Unless you want to give it this kind of an S shape. I'm going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase those little pencil lines of that V shape that we made. So this is two of the same tangle, and I'm going to make them into little butterflies. So I'm going to let this one come up here, make these little antennae, like that. And if you want to make that circle in the middle a little bit larger, you could. And look at these cute little butterflies. Aren't they lovely? And you could see where you could put these two right up against each other. Or you could do four. You could do one this way and then one this way and here and here. And you'd have this really cool like meta pattern by putting four together. And it wouldn't have to be a butterfly. I just love it. Plus, within this, you can embellish. You can put tangles, you can put some striping, whatever you want to do. So many fun things. I'm gonna put in these two top areas, I'm gonna put some giant, very light on my pen, print on. Just some spirals. To give it some texture. And then I'm going to skip one and go to this section and do it as well. That's really just going to fit one with maybe some auras. And down in this bottom section. And then maybe in these sections, I'll do a couple little flicks of my pen. And look how pretty. This one, just so we don't take up a lot of time, I'm just going to put some flicks of my pen in each one. All right, let's do some shading. All right, to shade this one, I'm going to go in this center area and I'm going to put graphite all around that center dot, but not up in here because we don't have a tangle up in there. So I'm gonna go like that. Same thing over here. And you can see I'm doing it kind of dark, but I think once I start to blend that, it's going to look amazing. Okay, with my blending tool, I'm gonna push it into the paper and also bring it out into these wings just a little bit. Same thing over here. If you feel like you have too much graphite, you can take a kneaded eraser, you can pick some of it up. Then I'm also going to give the very edges, these little curves, I'm going to give them a little bit of graphite as well because I think it'll help those wings look like they're kind of tipping back. Let's see, I'm going to give that just a little push out towards the center. Look how thick and beautiful. And with this white area in the center, it really looks like the wings are kind of coming up and tipping back. Let's do this one. Put some on those outside curves. Maybe the bottom of the tail as well. Push that in slightly. There we go. I need to add my initials to it. And that one is complete. So pretty, so much fun. What a fun thing to play with. All right, let's get our compilation pieces out, if that's what you are working on, and see where we want to put this. That's always kind of the fun part, is figuring out where this should go. And I think I'm going to do mine as singles so that they just are kind of flying around inside our composition. It would be beautiful in a corner, and it would not even have to be a butterfly. It could just be a beautiful piece without the antenna. So I think I want to put one in here to fill in that space. Okay, that's where I'm going to begin. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to figure out how I can fit one in here with a triangular shape. And maybe it goes right here. This is the bottom. And I fill this in with some circles or some texture. So let me see, let me zoom in a bit. Okay. All right, I'm gonna put one in here. And I think because I have this space, I'm gonna let my V shape be a little bit curvy and kind of big. Look at how big that is compared to that. And I let it sort of go out a little bit. I think that's gonna work for me. Hopefully you can find a good spot where you think it fits for you. And then I'm gonna take my pen and I'm gonna put that horizontal line wherever I want it and add that dark circle. And you could make that circle even larger if you wanted it to be the head of the butterfly, you could. Okay, are we ready? I'm gonna try to do this kind of long. I'm gonna bump up and out to here, up and out. I do that halfway dot. And then the two curves down, which I like how that's gonna fit in between my Tripoli. And then my halfway dots on either side where I curve down and curve down. And then I do a curve, a curve, a curve, and a curve. Curve, 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 and a curve. You can put some antenna in there if they fit. Okay, that looks pretty good in there. I like that. I feel like the V shape is a little bit better than like this really long one, but it's how it fits, so I'm going to be happy with it. And then I'm going to decorate the insides. I'm going to do that same print hump, which is these spirals, and I'm going so light on my pen just so it's not the same thickness as the outside. The next one, I'm going to do some thin stripes all the way across. Do whatever you want. Print hump again. Stripes. And print hump. So now it looks like it's just kind of flying out there all by itself. It looks a little bit small. If I zoom out, you can see how it's just kind of nestled in there, but not hugged, not combined with the rest of the piece. So I need to do a few things. So I'm going to outline, I'm going to aura that whole thing, and I'm going to try to let it go right into these tangles that it's near. And I can even go around the antenna. I just want to go kind of close. Okay, that made it a little bit larger. It gave it a little hug. And now I'm going to put some orbs and things in here just to fill in this space. It's not really big enough to put another tangle. So let's do a nice big orb. I've got some space left over here I can ink in. Put another one or two in here. Maybe back here it's a little bit large. Maybe I'll do some lines for the background, just some texture. That looks good. And then around here I can do that dark ink, or I can do the texture. I'm going to do some dark ink because I really want this little butterfly guy to kind of pop. I want him to not get lost in all of the other lines. Give that some ink and some here. I have this little area right here. I'm going to continue the striping. And maybe I'll just leave that alone for a moment. Okay, let's do some shading and see what we think. So for the shading, the first thing I'm going to do is go around the outside of that entire Butria to help it jump off the page a little bit. And right over striping and over these little orbs we popped in there. Okay. And just that little bit of graphite separating it from the background helps this pop up just a little bit and be a little more seen. So pretty. Kind of put my graphite into his antenna a bit. Okay, and then in here I'm going to put that graphite in the bottom, right in that center of each of those sections, and also on the outside. If you want to take your eraser and erase that first V shape, you can. And a little bit on the inside of these C shapes. Okay. And I can push that up and away from that center into those cute little wings, and then also from those curves. And now we have that pretty light white area and this little bit of graphite giving that some motion. All right, what do you think? If you ever have a spot like my middle right now is really covered in pencil, you can go back over it with ink right over the top of the pencil and re-darken some of those lines. Okay, I was going to add another one somewhere, but I kind of like how that one turned out, and I think it's enough for right now. I think it's enough. If I was going to keep going with it, I would definitely do one in the corner and really fill in this corner with those cool shapes. But I like it right there, and I want to make sure I have enough room for the last 10 tangles, so we're just going to leave it. I love Butria. I will definitely be using that again in other pieces. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.